everyone, my name is Jarod, I'm here with Jacob, and today we're reporting on 4 somewhat major events in our history.
Today we will be covering the Cuban Adjustment Act, the bank panics in the Great Depression, the bombing of Pearl Harbor, and the Montgomery bus boycotts.
Thank you, Jake.
You're welcome.
Now, before we get started, I would like to thank our viewers for tuning into this special edition of Channel 3000 News, where we review our experiences of traveling back to some historic events using the exclusive, new, and fully functioning time machine. Brought to us by none other than the DeLorean Motor Company, making time travel possible since 1985.
We will also be discussing how these events affected our history. And now, without further ado, let's get into it. The Cuban Adjustment Act, revised in 1966, was meant to help Cubans come to the United States.
Specifically, any Cuban who has remained in the United States for 1 year or more may apply to become a citizen. As we saw on our trip back, the signing of this event caused many Cubans to rejoice at the eligibility of citizenship.
Many people believed that this event could be the beginning of rebuilding relations with Cuba. When asking one man's opinion, he replied, "Relations with Cuba may finally be fixed." It is reassuring to know that these people all felt good about the act.
This event changed our history by allowing widespread citizenship to Cubans who may have been waiting for years to see an act come about like this. The act also somewhat encouraged Cubans to come over to America as there was a promise of new citizenship.
Something I found rather interesting is this certificate that you received for attending the signing of this act.
I thought it was pretty cool. The White House would give out commemorative items to people in attendance. But enough of that, let's head back to the Great Depression with the bank panics. Our next event takes place towards the beginning of the Great Depression. This is the bank panics starting in 1930.
This is when the people were seeing all the money being lost through stocks and quickly rushed to the banks to take their money out.
This was a problem though, because at this point in time, no insurance was on the money people stored in banks. And with everyone getting money at once, they ran out of money to give and went bankrupt.
All the people that couldn't get the money from the banks had no way to retrieve it. The money was lost and the family was forced to struggle through poverty. When we went back to this period, all we could see on people's faces was panic. The true effects of the Great Depression had finally sunk in.
We were unable to question or talk to any of the people because they were all either rushing from place to place or too worried to start a conversation. We were lucky enough, though, to bring back an item I think is quite interesting.
This item, though rather beat up, is a notice of bankruptcy from the National Bank of Dank Memes. This was found just outside the front doors of the bank. It states that any money lost in the event of remaining closed cannot be returned.
This goes to show how much money was actually lost as the banks went bankrupt. The banks that stayed open were likely the ones that had the least amount of customers since there was not as much money to pay back. One way many of the banks were saved was through Roosevelt's bank holiday.
This is a proclamation by Roosevelt and banned bank transactions of any kind from taking place for 1 whole week. This would give the banks and people time to recover and get back on their feet.
Well, that about wraps things up for the bank panics, so let's move on to the bombing of Pearl Harbor. The bombing of Pearl Harbor occurred on December 7th, 1941. This was the first major foreign attack that has ever happened on United States soil. The Japanese sent planes, 408 to be exact, to bomb the harbor and cause as much chaos as possible.
The singular attack hurled us into World War II, which was still under debates on whether to join or not. On our trip back, it started out with the faint sound of engines. This soon grew to roars of gunfire and explosions everywhere, accompanied by the screams of panic.
Debris was flying everywhere, but I was lucky enough to grab a piece of one of the few Japanese planes that were shot down or crashed. This is part of a Japanese bomber's wing. We believe that this was the first plane that was destroyed, but we can't be sure.
And heading back to how we got involved in World War II, we really didn't have a choice after being attacked blindly. Our only real option was to defend ourselves from any other attacks, and sadly, the only way to do that was by attacking them back.
That's all the time we have for Pearl Harbor. Now we will take a short commercial break and be back with our discussion of the Montgomery bus boycott. Banana corporations, uses for banana. Catching fireflies. Banana corporations, uses for banana. Pocket knife. Banana corporation, uses for banana. New best friend. Hi, I'm Jarod of Banana Corporation. These were only a few of the possible uses for bananas. The uses for bananas are limitless. Go get yours today.
Welcome back, everyone. You're tuned in to Channel 3000 News, where we are discussing the Montgomery bus boycott. This event took place in the South during the Jim Crow laws. It was a large protest against the segregation of buses in the cities.
For 381 days, all African Americans would walk where they needed to go and put a complete stop on the use of public transportation.
Though they hated to admit it, these bus companies needed the black community's patronage to stay in business.
An act was finally passed that desegregated buses, allowing blacks and whites to sit side by side legally.
Of course, we took a trip back to this one, too. While there, we were able to get a pretty decent picture of a parking lot starting to pile up with empty buses as owners lose money and can't run the bus any longer.
We saw many people walking to and from work, to school, and even just to go see their families. The determination was so great that they would walk in the rain, the storms, the blazing sun, you name it, and they would walk in it.
This work definitely paid off. They got exactly what they wanted in the end, and that was that the buses were finally desegregated.
Well, that just about wraps it up for this special edition of Channel 3000 News.
Thank you all for watching. We hope to see you again next time.